Hello, everyone. Good evening. You're very welcome to this session. Kindly confirm if you can hear me. Just use a thumbs up. Not this one, but the digital one. So, like this. Kindly confirm if you can hear me. Great. Great, great, great. Happy to have all of you on the call. And I hope you guys are excited about the session we're having this evening. I hope you're very expectant. There is quite a lot that's going to be shared, and I think you won't leave the same. So today we're going to be having a session on the power of intentionality, and it's going to be a conversation with our exceptional guest speaker this evening, who happens to be already on the call. Sylvia Boonabaana, you're very, very welcome. Kindly confirm if you can hear me or use your microphone.
I can hear you, Roland. Thank you.
Awesome. So guys, we are ready and we're going to be starting. And before we get started, we are going to have some house rules. So for those of you that have just joined us, I would request that you keep your microphone on mute to avoid interrupting the session. If you have any questions or any thoughts, perhaps something stands out as the session goes on, please feel free to drop that in the chat. So we'll use the chat largely to communicate, share any comments, any questions, and at some point in the session, we'll be reviewing those and engaging our guest speaker. So I hope that is really noted. So I'll have us get started. And yeah, today we are joined by, again, Sylvia Boonabaana, who is a software engineer. She's an author of a book titled The Power of Intentionality. I think during the session, I'll show you guys the copy of the book. It's a really wonderful book. And she's really passionate about helping you guys this evening get started on your journey of intentionality. We'll share more about the book, maybe during the session or towards the end, so that perhaps you'll find a way of getting yourself a copy of this book. Besides writing, because I mentioned she's an author, Sylvia is a techie, I already mentioned. She's a software engineer, currently with FutureLink Technologies. Yes, as a developer, she, of course, builds digital solutions that help businesses accelerate or improve in their efficiency and streamline processes. But besides that, she also helps others cultivate purpose, cultivate focus and growth in their personal and professional journeys. She's done this through communities like Girls for Girls, where she's mentored over 3 cohorts. And through her book, she also goes ahead to inspire endless, well, really numerous number of people that she may not necessarily have an opportunity to meet in a room like, well, in a space like this. So if you don't have or don't know about the book, we'll get you the details so that perhaps you can get more information about the power of intentionality. This evening, we will be having a conversation on this particular topic, the power of intentionality, and particularly building a purpose-driven career in tech. So we're going to be having a conversation, sort of. We've prepared some questions that we think would help guide our conversation such that we can get quite a lot from Sylvia. Sylvia is not just coming here because she wrote a book about the power of intentionality. She's gone through a journey. She's had an experience that actually led her to live life more intentionally. And we'll get to be hearing a lot about that as we share today. And hopefully, from our sharing, you'll get to learn a lot, but not just learn, but take also actions from this session that would help you get started on your journey to being more intentional about your growth. So I would like to take this opportunity to welcome Sylvia. You can use any emoji of your choice, guys. I know you may not necessarily unmute, but let's celebrate Sylvia as she at least says hello to us before we jump into the conversation. You're very welcome, Sylvia. Happy to have you on the call.
Thank you very much, Roland. It's a pleasure to be here. And I'm looking forward to this session and to meet all the people that are on the call. Yes, thank you.
Awesome. That's really exciting. And guys, before we jump into the session, I would like to give an opportunity to about two people for the interest of time. Two people just share with us. And how you're going to do it, just raise your hand. I'll pick you. Would like to get your expectation. What's your expectation from this session? So just shoot your hand like how I'm doing right now, like so. Shoot your hand and we'll give you an opportunity to share with us what your expectation is from this session. Two people, preferably a gentleman and a lady. I'm not afraid to pick, okay? Okay, so we're going to pick. According to my list here, I'm going to pick Susan Chambers. Over to you, Susan Chambers. Kindly unmute and share with us your expectation from this session. Mic check, Susan. Are you there? Okay, maybe someone else. I'll pick on Asimwe Mugumia. Asimwe, any expectation from today's session?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yes. Thank you, Roland, for this session. And I also want to thank Sylvia for coming up to share her knowledge with us. So one of my expectations is to know how to be intentional. Because nothing comes by chance, we have to seek out what we want. First of all, know that we want something, and then take appropriate steps to achieve it. So I'm expecting to learn how to first of all know what you want in the constantly evolving tech world. You know, every other day they say that there's a scare, but also, you know, I'm hoping that we can find ways of navigating through all those issues. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you too. Happy to have you on the call, and we believe you'll get quite a lot from the session. Someone had raised their hand. Was it? Could you raise your hand again? I didn't get the name. Didn't get the name. Okay, so opportunity going once, going twice. Okay. Okay. All right. Takia, we'll go to you. Takia, let's hear from you.
Okay, good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
My expectation in this session, they are about the guidance in tech careers, because here most students at course think that if you are in tech, the only thing you have to do is development or become a developer. So I would expect to give more insight about, besides being a developer, what else someone can do in tech.
Okay. Okay, awesome. Good. Thank you so much. Morrison, over to you, and then we'll get started.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for this opportunity.
You're welcome.
Yeah, my expectations this evening, I expect to get to learn more about a purpose-driven career and being focused in whatever I'm pursuing. Yeah, thank you.
All right, great. Thank you so much, Morrison. Happy to have you on the call. Okay, so it's about that time for us to get started. And with me here are a number of questions I'm going to be shooting at Sylvia. I know she's very ready for these ones. So we're going to start off by just getting to know more about Sylvia before we jump into the questions relating to the purpose-driven career in tech. So Sylvia, would like you to start us off by taking us through, your early days. What drew you into technology? What has your journey been like starting out? And I think just to ballpark everything for you to answer at a single go, would also like to know who or what inspired you to pursue software engineering. And of course, as one of your readers, I've read the book. You mentioned that in your fourth year project, you worked in collaboration with MIT, that is the Massachusetts Institute of Technology. So it would be good to hear from you about that project. But without getting started with the project, let's hear from you, Sylvia. How did you get started and who is Sylvia?
Thank you very much, Roland. And once again, yes, it's a pleasure to be here. And who is Sylvia? Roland has mentioned a bit of what I do in terms of work, in terms of mentorship, in terms of being an author. But one thing I am really, really passionate about is personal and leadership development, mine and that of others. So whichever space you'll find me in, whether in tech or otherwise, I'll most probably be doing something related to leadership or personal development, either mine or helping somebody to do the same for themselves. So that's one of the things that really drives me wherever I am. So getting back to how did I get into the tech space? Many of us get into the tech space in different ways. Some of us know from the very word go, this is where I want to go. But sometimes we just find ourselves there. But then we discover that this is actually a passion that we probably had, and God just had mercy on us and led us there. For me, while I was younger, I had two options that I wanted. I wanted to do engineering, though I didn't know much about engineering. I didn't know anything about it, different types of engineering. But also I wanted to do something to do with accounting and finance, just because I liked how, when you go to the bank and those ladies and gentlemen are looking very smart, how the banking halls were always, very well lit and looking neat and all. So I just loved the accounting and finance space. But also as I grew older in school, I fell in love with mathematics. So I loved things to do with numbers as well. So by the time I reached, I think, Form 6, while I was trying to get into university, I think at that point I had dropped the engineering dream, and now I was more inclined towards doing accounting, finance. And in fact, at S6, I think I'd put one of my first choices as a Bachelor of Science in, I think it was statistics, and then had put something to do with accounting and finance, until my mathematics teacher saw it and said, Sylvia, what is this that you put on your job forms? We used to call them job forms then. I don't know what they're called these days, Roland. But my teacher, when he saw the form, he said, Sylvia, what is this that you've put? But to cut the long story short, he told me there's this new course, it's called telecom, it's amazing and all that. So he said I should do telecom. So that's how I did. I put telecom on as my first choice, and I got it as the first course that was given to me on government sponsorship. Though I didn't know much about it, I went and did the course. I enjoyed some of the modules. Of course, we had in there mathematics, we had digital, digital electronics, and then we had things to do with IT and the traditional telecom. So I enjoyed some of the modules. Other modules, maybe not so much, but in general, I can say I really enjoyed the course, and I was glad that I was able to come into that space. So as Roland has mentioned, he said I'm a software engineer. So how do I now come from telecom into the software engineering space? In the telecom course, we had some modules on software engineering, but back then, if you had a module on software engineering, they were writing the code on the blackboard, not like these days where you are putting it on the computer. They were writing the codes on the blackboard. And my fourth year project, during my second year, I joined a project that was called iLabs at Mark. And the purpose of this project was because number of students were so many in the engineering department, that time it was called Faculty of Technology. Because the numbers were so many, there was not enough room or equipment for every student to get a chance to do those experiments in the laboratory. So what iLabs at Mark was trying to achieve was to create some of those laboratories, turn them into software. So iLabs just simply means internet laboratories. So turn some of those experiments and bring them into a software space so that now each student can have an opportunity to do the same experiment, but on their computer with a simulation of the same equipment that they would have otherwise had in the lab. So in second year, I joined that project, and it was in collaboration with MIT. So in fourth year, that's how I was selected to represent my team in a workshop at MIT, where we got to present our projects at MIT. And I was able to go represent my team and present the project. And I must say that project was really a tough one. It was an interesting one, and yet very challenging in so many ways, because it had a lot of computer programming to do. Yet I had not learned a lot of computer programming because, like I said, I was doing telecom. So most of the courses were really in IT and telecom. So it was so hard. I think I even almost got a dead year, but somehow we pushed on together with my team and we were able to finish the project. Now, I found that project very, very interesting. Especially the programming bit of it. I had a friend of mine who was doing computer science. So he's the one that helped us to work together with us, and were able to complete that project. And for me, Roland, you were asking what inspired me to join software engineering. I think for me, I would say that was the moment where the interest in software engineering started, because just being able to see, because we were given a hardware. So our project was integrating the Emona Fortex interface into the batched iLabs client. Let me just share here a link, because after doing this project, we were able to also present a paper, which was published by IEEE, for those of us that might know IEEE. So what we were doing in this project was, there was a piece of hardware, one of the iLabs hardware, and we were to create a software of that hardware. So for me, just being able to see that hardware come into life on the software, and you can connect the wires from one point to another. For me, that was like magic. I was like, this is powerful stuff. So for me, that was one of the things that really, really sparked my interest in software engineering at that point, even though I almost got a dead year. And I didn't pursue, after graduating the 4th year, I didn't pursue software or even telecom for some time. And then I later came back to it. And now I had to get back into learning what are the principles of software engineering, basically learning it from first principles, learning different languages, learning different principles in software engineering. I did that at the Refactory Academy. Some of you might be aware of it. So I was able to do a Catalyst program and a bootcamp at the Refactory program, and that was an amazing experience. And I can say after that program, the rest is history. I've been in the software engineering space. Now I've been able to work on different projects in the space of software engineering. And as Roland has mentioned, I now serve at FutureLink Technologies as the senior software developer for one of the projects that we are working on. I don't know if Roland, that begins to summarize a little bit of my journey. There's a lot to say, but again, we don't have all the time to be able to say everything.
Yep, thank you so much. That was really nice. Guys, I know she rushed to mention how she shifted from telecom to software engineering. The book really shows us quite a lot. If you don't have that book, we'll talk about it. And thanks to Refactory, really great place. I know some of you guys on the call have been to Refactory, and yeah, she's really good product of that place. And we've had, yeah, she's not just a developer, she's leading a team, guys. She's awesome.
Yeah.
So in your book, Sylvia, you mentioned that life is so interesting. How you've introduced yourself, someone may think everything was like check, 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 and which is not the case. To get to where you are right now, there was quite a lot that happened. And of course, you eventually got to focus, have to have everything in order for you to get to where you are. Now, in your sharing, of course, in the book, you mentioned that by reading The Circle Maker by Mark Batterson, it was a life-changing experience for you. I know you had this from your experience at Girls for Girls. You had the girls mention about this book, and you took interest. Could you just share with us some of the lessons from that book that lit the bulb for you and influenced your perception of intentional living?
That book, The Circle Maker, like you've mentioned, it really set me on a journey that transformed my life forever. I am a Christian, and I know that many of us on the call might be Christians as well. And sometimes we think that, you can pray and God will answer our prayers, which He does. But as I read that book, I understood the balance between, prayer and taking personal responsibilities for the results that we see in our lives. And there was a quote in there that stayed with me, which said that pray like it all depends on God and work like it all depends on you. And for me, that changed my perspective. And perspective, again, is everything. So for me, that changed my perspective, but it also helped me to dream bigger as a person, because many times the dreams we have, when we are younger, we sort of have big dreams. People want to be pilots, they want to be so many things. But as we grow older and face some challenges, go through experiences, and see the people who are close to us go through life, many times those dreams begin to die. So what that book did for me was to help me to dream bigger once again. Because, again, I think it's in that book or another book by Mark Batterson, where he said that if your dreams do not scare you, then those dreams are not big enough. So what dreams are those that you have? Do they scare you? If they scare you, then you are in a good place, because God has placed so much potential in each one of us, and those dreams that he has placed in our minds, in our hearts. And for each one of us, the dreams are different. But whatever the dream it is, if it's big and it scares you, that is a good place to be in. And if you're here and you don't have big dreams that scare you, then you need to check again. Maybe you need some new dreams. So for me, that book really helped me to dream bigger, because some of the dreams I had were in the category of, yeah, this one can be done. This one can be done if I do 1, 2, 3 things. But having dreams that are bigger than us keeps us motivated, but keeps us also feeling like there is something that is bigger than us that we are living for. So number 1, it helped me to dream bigger. But number 2, it also helped me to understand that whatever I am doing today is contributing to who I am going to be tomorrow. Sometimes we take life in a laissez-faire mode, like they say. And sometimes we just do things. Maybe we just go to class, or we just go to a certain job, or we just make a certain friend. But that book taught me that every simple decision or choice that we make, or choice that I make, is contributing to the person that I am going to become tomorrow. So it helped me to backtrack and say, okay, if this is the person I want to be tomorrow, maybe I want to be a senior software engineer. Maybe I want to be a specialist in AI. Maybe I want to sit on a board of a tech company, or I want to start a tech company. Maybe I want to be a CEO. If that is the person I want to be in future, are my actions today contributing to that? Or are my actions today taking from that? So reading that book, The Circle Maker, helped me have that perspective. And what that meant is that I acted differently. I was very serious about how I used my time, which people I hung out with, and how I was growing in the different areas of my life.
Wonderful. Now, speaking about books, of course, you've read quite a number of books. I think you read between 20 to 23, or actually close to 30 books a year. I think I'm not wrong. And of course, when you say you read the book, The Circle Maker, it is easy for someone to even have the book title, like we've just shared, and still not read the book, or buy the book and keep it. So you've spoken about the way that book impacted your life. Could you maybe speak into the power of reading? What have you found as a secret, maybe, for our audience to actually pick from that perhaps help them shape their mindset and grow as developers?
Thank you, Roland. I love this topic very much, especially when it comes to speaking to people in the tech space. Reading really changed my life in so many ways that I cannot even begin to mention. But one of the major things that changed when I began reading was the way that I communicate. Whether it's in speaking, like how we are talking today, or even just writing. Even just being able to write the book that we are talking about today, Roland, that was because of reading. You cannot write a book if you're not a reader. So for me, reading changed my communication. It changed my conversation. I used to struggle a lot to maintain conversation, whether with friends, whether with colleagues at work, whether with, I remember some years back when it would be lunchtime, I would just go get my lunch, sit in my office, and just switch on a movie and watched. Not because I didn't like, sitting with friends, not because I was antisocial, but I really had nothing to talk about. But reading gives you a wide spectrum of things to talk about, whether it's with your colleague at work or whether it's with the CEO whom you've met at lunchtime. So reading improves, it really did a lot in improving my conversation. But also it helped to change my mindset. And of course, it goes without saying that it increased my knowledge in a lot of things. Now, for us that are in the software engineering space or the tech space, but let me speak specifically about the software engineering space. They say that for a software project, it is only 30% coding, right? But the rest, the 70%, is everything else, from speaking to clients, understanding what their problem is, thinking about ideas of how to solve that problem, and then sharing those ideas with the relevant stakeholders so that you can begin to work on the project, collaborating with your teammates to make the project work, and so on and so forth. Have you ever met someone who has a lot of very brilliant ideas, but they just can't present them? So what that means is that every time you have an idea, because you can't present it, then you find that maybe somebody else is even going to go and present it. And sometimes it may look like that they were the ones with the idea. And because of that, you find yourself missing out on some opportunities. Now, for me, just by being a reader, and how it has helped me improve my communication, gain a lot of knowledge in different things. Now, where I work today, for example, there's most of the discussions about different projects and conversations that we are having about different solutions. Most of those meetings, I will always be, sorry about that background noise. I will always be invited to those meetings. And sometimes I'm just in there with the business team, the CEO, and maybe the CTO. But why am I invited and not other developers? It's because there is something that of value that I can add. And sometimes even, for example, when my manager is not there, he'll be like, Sylvia, could you help me, support with this meeting, or help me explain A, B, C, and D to the CEO? Why? Not because I'm the only developer there. No, we are a big team of developers, but because I have learned the art of being able to communicate, because sometimes you're dealing with different stakeholders. For example, you'll be doing integrations with maybe Airtel or MTN. How are you going to communicate with these different teams in order to be able to do your integration, which is the technical stuff? So reading sets you apart as a software engineer or as a person in IT. And the other thing that I've seen, because reading has also helped me to understand the business aspect of things. So that means I can also contribute valuably in terms of how the company can measure growth, because these days we are going into the age of AI and all. So companies are not looking for people who can write code, right? Or who can do database engineering. Companies are looking for people who can actually add value to them, people who can help them grow, and people who can help them make more money, because that's their bottom line. Yes, they want to provide technology, but bottom line is they also need to make money. So reading has also helped me gain wider perspective on how the business is running. So I'm able to contribute more valuably in light of that. I think I'll just stop it at that, Roland.
Okay, so Speaking about the book, I don't know if you guys see it properly. This is the book she's written. We'll share more details about it. And in this book, there is quite a lot to learn from, especially about being intentional. Now, I want us to jump straight into something you actually mentioned in chapter 3. And it was around why we can't live intentionally. Because now we want to at least now get to the point. How do we get to be more intentional? And some of the things you mentioned are the barriers. You mentioned perfectionism, having unmeasured goals, comparing ourselves with other people, fearing, and of course, fearing had very many layers to it. You also mentioned the lack of self-awareness and also that very bad guy called procrastination. So for me, my question to you is, which of these you personally struggled with? I mean, the different barriers. And how did you overcome them? Perhaps your sharing would help us. Over to you.
Thank you, Roland. The way you've mentioned all of them, I struggled with them at one point or another, and that's why they are in the book, because I struggled with each one of them. But the ones that I struggled with most are, number one, the point of goals that are unmeasurable. Now, this is how most of my goals looked like at the beginning of the year. So it would be like maybe do a master's program, make more money. What else? Add some weight. I know that's a rare one, but some of us usually have that goal. Add some weight.
I love that one. I really like what? We usually want to lose weight, want to add it.
Yeah. So if I say do a master's program, what program is that? What master's? Is it a master's in telecom? Is it a master's in IT? Is it an MBA? What kind of master's is that? And where do I want to do it from? So that kind of goal was always so ambiguous. If I say make more money, how much money is that? How will I know when I've achieved that goal of making more money? Because an extra 1,000 Ugandan shillings is also more money, right? But when I'm saying make more money, is that what I really mean? Do I mean make 1,000 shillings more, or do I mean make 100 million more, maybe? So having goals that are unmeasurable is one of the things that set me back. So what I did was learn to break the big ambiguous goals into smaller things. So instead of saying something like, do a master's program, I'll start with something small, like pick application forms for an MBA from MOOBS, maybe and then do something like that. If it's a goal of, say, maybe live more healthy, what does that even mean? So I had to break it down into things like sleep at least 6 hours a day, which means maybe sleep by 11 a.m. or 11 p.m. or 10 p.m. or drink 2 liters of water a day, or maybe exercise for 15 more healthily. Am I still on, Roland?
Yes, sorry about that. You're still
on. Okay. Yes. So yeah, I can easily measure that I've exercised for 15 minutes, but I can't measure whether I have lived healthily by the end of Monday, for example. So having goals that are more measurable, maybe if it's in terms of start a business, what kind of business is that which I'm starting? Or make more money every day. Break it down to something smaller, that's manageable. Maybe say make an extra 1 million. If you want to make 100 million by the end of the year, how much money is that? Every month, maybe that's 10 million. How much am I already making? Maybe I'm already making 3 million. I need to make more, 7 million. Is that reasonable based on where I am? Then I'll say, yes, maybe it is, and maybe it's not. If it's not, how can I take it down lower, because now there it's less ambiguous. You're now getting into the details. So for unmeasurable goals, I broke it down into things that I can actually measure at the end of the day. I can measure them at the end of the week. I can measure them at the end of the month. Anything I can't measure, that one is just, if you have anything in your goals that you can't measure, that one is just a wish, because it's definitely not going to happen. So that was one. The other one that I struggled with, I think, was perfectionism. And how I overcame that is when I read the book Mindset by Carol Dweck, and she was talking about the concept of the fixed mindset and the growth mindset. And the fixed mindset is basically, you don't want to do anything that you're not going to be good at or excellent at. And that's how I was, because I thought you either know how to do it or you don't know how to do it. There is no in between. There's no room for growth. But reading that book, I got to learn that there's actually room for growth for everything. So I began to allow myself more grace to be able to grow, to be able to do things, even if they are not perfect, but at least I have been able to try. And like we know, like they say that growth happens when we start getting out of our comfort zone, or the way to increase our comfort zone is by getting out of it. So perfectionism, that one I just had to embrace the process. Actually, that's how I can summarize getting over perfection. Embrace the process. The process has ups and downs. And I think that's combined with the fear of failure, because I would fear to try out new things, which I wasn't very sure that I was going to excel at. But I learned to embrace the process, to embrace the journey, because life is basically a journey. Even living a life of intentionality, a life of purpose, it's really a journey. There will be ups and downs, but as we go through those ups and downs, failure just now becomes a stepping stone to become better, or to become a place of learning, so that maybe we can either take a different journey or take a different strategy, but on the same journey.
Nice. I hope you guys are learning quite a lot from our experience, because it's not that she's copy paste straight from a book and come share. This is her lived experience. Now, in your sharing, especially around this topic, I love the point about not waiting. This is not from what you submitted, but from your book. Not waiting to have all the time in the world. And you mentioned that sometimes we will actually, most of the time, we'll never have enough time to do the things that we want. So in most cases, when we get a job, for example, and you've been doing your course, somehow you feel like, oh, we need the money. Let's first drop this course. Or, oh, I don't have enough time to actually do this. But it's something that helped me perhaps in my career. We usually have that dilemma most of the time. At least I believe most of the people on the whole have that.
Yeah.
So how did you and your realization of that change your approach to your goals and your growth?
Absolutely. There are many things we usually say too, that we don't have enough time. And one thing that I learned, especially from the Girls for Girls program, is the idea of investing in your gathering years. Now, this goes for those who are students or those who are just starting out in the tech space. Invest in your gathering years. And what does that mean? It means that you invest time to learn, because people who are excellent at something, they definitely put in the time to learn. And they had to sacrifice a lot of things, because sometimes, we see the likes of Steve Jobs, Elon Musk, and all these people that, we admire. Anytime you see someone that has done anything great, just know that there's a lot that has been sacrificed. And what am I talking about? Of course, I rushed through what my journey what my journey was getting back into the software engineering space. But there was a lot of sacrifice that was made in terms of investing time to learn. And as we very, very well know that in the tech space, things are always changing. So if you're not learning anytime, you find that you're out of work, or you're not keeping up with what is happening in the tech space. I usually tell, some colleagues at work, sometimes you're working on something, but then there's maybe a short course, or maybe sometimes it's like 4 weeks or sometimes 12 weeks that you need to learn so that you can be able to do your work better. But sometimes people will say, I don't have time, I'm busy. But really, when you look at your schedule, one time I sat down and I looked at my schedule, because I had a lot of things that I was doing. So I knew that if I don't schedule my day, then I'm not going to be able to achieve them. So I sat down and began to schedule, because each one of us has 24 hours, rich or poor, young or old, Elon Musk or not, each one of us has 24 hours. The question is, how are you using these 24 hours? Are you spending 3 hours on TikTok, or how are you using these hours? Because sometimes we say we don't have time, but you spend 3 hours on TikTok, or you spend an hour talking to a friend. And I'm not saying being on TikTok is bad, or talking to a friend is bad, but how are you balancing? Is staying on TikTok for 3 hours contributing to your goal of what you want to be in 10 years from now? Or can you reduce that TikTok time to maybe 30 minutes, or sometime less, and then use the extra 2.5 hours to build into the person that you want to be? Or this 1 hour you're spending talking to this, to this person every day, if you talk to them for just maybe 30 or 20 minutes, will that relationship die, or is what you're talking about building and contributing to who you want to be in the future? So many times we say that we don't have time, but when you really sit down and try to look, what have I used my 24 hours for? That time when I did that, I began to realize that, okay, I'm at work for 9 hours, which is 8 hours and 1 hour for lunchtime. And then maybe I'm sleeping for 7 hours. So those are 16 hours. So I began to wonder, so these other 8 hours, what exactly am I doing with these 8 hours? And to be honest, I couldn't trace where those 8 hours were going. And it always seemed like I don't have time. So I realized that some of those hours were wasted in, chit chat after work, or sometimes those hours are taken up in moving, maybe like 3 or 4 hours to move. Or sometimes when I reach home, maybe I'm just, scrolling on social media, and I realized that there's a lot of time that is lingering. But if we really sit down and think about the 24 hours that we have, the 8 hours or 9 hours at work, and then maybe the 6 to 7 hours, 6 to 8 hours for sleeping, we still have an extra 6 to 8 hours that we can really use for our personal development, for side hustles, and different things that can really help us to be the person that we want to be. So the concept of we don't have extra time, that one is a myth. So what I had to do was to really sit down and create time for the things that I thought that were important. And I think many of us have heard that, there's this joke that goes around in relationships that, that someone will always say that they don't have time for you, but what they're really saying is that you are not a priority, because people always make time for things that are important. So what things are important in your life? And are you making time for those things? That's what I can say about that.
Nice. Thank you. Are you making time for those? Are they priority for you, right? I like that reference to relationships. I hope no one is telling you that they don't have time. Okay. So our time is fast spent. So I'm going to narrow down to just a few more questions. But before we jump into that, this is, of course, made possible by the Kanzi Code Foundation with our friends from the Makerere Technology Society. If you're from the Makerere Technology Society, please use any emoji of your choice. Just want to know that you are around, want to recognize you from Makerere Technology Society. Use those emojis. I hope you okay. Let's see, one person. Okay. All right. Happy to have you, and I hope you guys are enjoying the session. Now, to wrap up, Sylvia, I would like to get to know something, because this is really about getting intentional about our careers, being purpose-driven, speaking to your daily or weekly habits that have helped you stay intentional, both at work, your career in tech, and personal development.
Yes. So number one of the things that have helped me stay focused is I have my personal goals in my career, and one of the goals I have is to sit on a board or on boards of a tech company, long-term goal. And of course, not very long term, but a little bit long term. What does that mean in my day-to-day life? That means that every day I'm learning and educating myself and increasing my knowledge in terms of the conversations that are had in the boardroom. I'm not going to only learn about conversations that are had in a stand-up meeting. So that informs the material that I am reading. And then in terms of my work, I also have some goals in terms of how I want to grow technically. For example, sometimes I want to increase my knowledge on something specific, maybe databases, maybe data and AI, and how I can integrate it into my work. So that means that every day I'm going to be learning about those subjects. Sometimes it will be by way of a course for a certain period of time. And what that means is I schedule 1 hour every day. For example, recently I finished a course on data analytics, and then I finished another one on database engineering. But I was scheduling 1 hour before I start working every day for me to be able to learn those courses, because each of those courses, one was about 30 hours, another one was about 4 weeks. I don't remember how many hours it was, because it was online meetings every Monday and Thursday. But what that means is I have to schedule the time, because the truth is there is no time, because also my schedule outside of work is a bit busy. So what I do, I come into work earlier, and then I have that 1 hour which I've scheduled to be able to learn in those different areas. Then number two, when I come during, for example, in the morning, I know that there are these 3 things that I want to work on today, and then I write them down. Now, there's a lot of power in writing down things. It's very underestimated and underrated, but it's something that can help you keep focused. Because once I've written down the 3 things that I want to do, and again, don't write so many things, 10 things, you're definitely not going to do them. So I write down my 3-4 things that I want to work on, including the learning. I'll say, okay, I want to learn this. I'll be doing this course, and then I want to work on these 3 specific tasks, and I focus on that. Of course, distractions are going to come in. Someone will say, oh, Sylvia, we need this. Oh, Sylvia, can you help us work on this? So once they ask me to do something, can you help us with this? I will weigh that against what I had already planned for, and then I'll gauge and see, okay, is this what they're asking me? Is it more critical than what I'm doing? If yes, I can shift to that. But if it's not critical, more critical than what I'm doing, I'll be like, okay, just hold on, give me about 2 hours. Let me finish this. And then I see how I can squeeze in some time for this. Because once you have your priorities for that day already set, then you're most likely going to respond less to distractions because you're focused. But if you don't have any priorities, of course, when they say, Sylvia, can you help with this? Of course, you're going to jump to that because you don't have anything that you've written down as a priority. So scheduling time for learning, planning for the day, and following the plan as much as possible. There are many people who plan, but then they don't follow through with the plan. And then one other thing that has really helped me a lot is remaining consistent, especially with some of those things that you may not see the results very quickly, but remaining consistent, like on things like learning, what I was telling you about. It may look like you're wasting time or passing time, but when you stick to it, it begins to show in the quality of your work later and in the quality of your conversations with your teammates. And sometimes that consistency might be boring, but somebody said that success belongs to those who are willing to put up with the boredom of consistency. And that's what being intentional is all about. Being consistent with some of the things that might seem boring, because like they say, consistency compounds at that point. You may not see the results immediately, but definitely at some point, the results will be evident and no one will be able to ignore you and the value that you can bring. And then one other thing that I do is also to pray for God's guidance, because, you know, sometimes you can be there at work, but you might face challenges that maybe you don't know how you can overcome. So for me, praying to God for guidance and for wisdom, that has also helped me to keep centered and focused in my work, in that even if I face a challenge, sometimes God just gives me wisdom to be able to overcome that.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for those wonderful nuggets. I hope you guys have taken notes. I hope you've been taking notes. Our time is fast spent, and I know there are other questions that we would have loved to ask Sylvia, but because of time, I will not be able to go beyond the allocated time. I'm going to ask one last question, ballpark it with your parting shots. And this is really for us, especially on the call that are starting out, for developers, or you're on your journey. So, Sylvia, looking back at your early days in tech and looking at the current state of technology right now,
yes,
what do you do different? What would you do differently, especially now that you're more aware of what would be needed for you to accelerate, perhaps, and get ahead of whatever you are doing? And then any final parting shots from you in line with intentionality? How do we capitalize on that virtue to grow and be more purposeful in our careers? Over to you.
Okay. In terms of what I would do differently in my earlier days, I think I would have invested more time in learning sooner than I did. I think it would have helped me grow faster in my career in technology, because like we've said, technology is changing all the time. So we just have to keep learning, and we're not saying learn everything, But one way of learning is, for example, one other thing actually I would have done is accepted more projects earlier than I would earlier in those days, because sometimes I would turn down projects because I don't have the skill. And yet in the technology space, for those who are in there, we know that most of the skills we get by working on a specific project. So I would have accepted more projects sooner and then learn as I go along. And in this age of AI, this generation is a bit lucky. In this age of AI, there's a lot of opportunity to accept projects, because now what I do these days differently. Those days when they would give me a project, I would say, no, I can't handle that. But these days when my manager where I am gives me a project, even if I don't know how I'm going to do it, I'll say, yes, I can do that. And then we'll figure it out on the way. And of course, we always figure it out along the way. Many times it will come with challenges, but out of those challenges, that's where the growth happens. So learning how to learn, and then accepting the challenges, stepping into the unknown, even if it's something that you've never done before, step into it and figure it out as you go along, because these days there's a lot of information and out there and AI that we can use to be able to become better in our tech space. Then finally, in terms of intentionality, what I can say to wrap up this conversation, of course, like Roland has said, 1 hour is not enough for us to be able to have a conversation about the whole subject of intentionality, but there's a lot that we could talk about, and I've penned it down in the book like he has mentioned, and you could definitely get yourself a copy, and it will give you a more comprehensive idea of what we are really talking about. But how I can summarize it is, growth does not happen by accident. It must be intentional. That's what John Maxwell said in one of his books. Growth does not happen by accident. It must be intentional. So as a person that is growing in the field of tech, in the field of software engineering, growth is your personal responsibility, and it's very important that you are intentional about it. Your employer or your supervisor or your professor, they can only help you to facilitate your growth, but the initiative must come from you, and these other people only come in to support. So don't just sit and wait for your professor or for your manager, because sometimes in interviews people ask, is there opportunity for growth in this company? I can assure you that many companies have opportunities for growth, but in so many ways, you have to create the opportunities yourself in one way or another, and then the company can be able to support you as much as they can. So growth is your personal responsibility, because it does not happen by accident. It must be intentional. Then the other thing is that understand your journey. Everybody's journey is different, so you must understand your journey. God has created each one of us with a purpose so that we can make this world a better place. And that looks different for each one of us, as many of us as are in the room, 34 of us. God has created each one of us with a unique purpose. And that's why we have different gifts. That's why we have different values. That's why we have different backgrounds and experiences. That's why we come from different places. That's why we are also different in many ways. That's because each one of us has a different contribution that we need to make. So being intentional is about understanding your uniqueness, understanding why you are different, and celebrating that, because many times we are lost in comparing ourselves with others, and we want to do things simply because somebody else is doing them. And that only leads to a life that is unfulfilled. But once we understand our uniqueness, then we are able to live a life that is more fulfilled professionally and otherwise. That's how I can summarize it, Roland. The rest, please get yourself a copy of The Power of Intentionality, and it will put everything that we've been talking about today into perspective. Thank you very much, and thank you for having me.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that. I liked that ending, really deep. And yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed those final nuggets there. Please, as anything else, whenever you get knowledge or wisdom, it only helps if you take action. So I encourage all of us, whatever you've picked from today's session, even though it's one thing, go and do it. It will make a huge difference. At the start, we mentioned how she actually, maybe just to tell you what happened, she had colleagues from the Girls for Girls community mention about the Circle Maker, that book, and she went ahead to look for it and eventually read, and look what happened to her. Her life is never the same, or totally changed because of just reading that book. So this session, 1 hour, could actually change your life, only if you take action. So thank you so much, Sylvia, for your time. Thank you for your nuggets. Thank you for your wisdom. And thank you for writing the book. Yeah, this is really gold. If you don't have the book, of course, I'm going to see how best to get whoever needs the book. You can reach out to me if you have my contact. If you don't have it, we're going to communicate so that you guys, if you're interested, get yourself a copy of this book. It's really good and will help you.
Roland,
So from us, yes,
there are some copies in Aristoc. There are copies in Aristoc. There are copies in Uganda Bookshop, and then Enjoy Christian Bookshop in Wandegea. Otherwise, they can get in touch with you in case somebody needs delivery. They can get in touch, and then we can see how to have those delivered.
Awesome. So you guys have it. Aristoc, check that out. And the other bookstores she has mentioned. But if you fail to get them, reach out to me or find a way of reaching out to her. But we'll definitely find a way of helping you guys get the books. So thank you so much, everyone, for attending. It's been a really awesome session with you. Thanks to the Makerere Technology Society for mobilizing some of the people on the call, and to the Cancer Code Foundation community. Thanks for being on the call. We'll look forward to having you in the next session. It will be happening before the end of the month, and I think the last week of the month, it will be a live coding session. We are bringing back John Baptist, and hope you guys will be ready to at least get something built in, I think, about a week or two from now. Wishing you guys a good night, and please take care and go turn these insights into actionable stuff for you, into things that will actually change your life. It's been me, Roland, Sankara, and the Cancer Code Foundation. Bye-bye and take care.